Welcome back. You're watching KTN Newsdesk here on KTN News. Let's take a look at the top stories. Our Ministry of Health officials led by Cabinet Secretary, that is Cleopa Milo, are continuing. They are hoping to have those talks with the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, and that is what we are following up today. They are currently meeting the Doctors Union officials in a bid to end the strike, which has entered its second day today. Officials of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC, are also attending the closed-door meeting at Afya House. The meeting comes at as public health facilities across the country remain deserted as nurses and doctors keep away. At least 8 patients are reported to have died on Monday, on the first day of the strike. Let's now go to the coast, to Mombasa, where Francis Ontomwa is keeping an eye on things there. Francis, good afternoon. What do we know from the coast, from Mombasa? All right, Francis Ontomwa, we are trying to link up with Francis Ontomwa in Mombasa to just tell us what is happening there as far as the doctors and medical workers strike is continuing. Remember, this is the second day. Our viewers, of course, want to know what's happening at the Coast General Hospital. This, that being the biggest hospital serving a lot of people in that region. We shall be keeping an eye on that. We shall be speaking to Francis Ontomwa very shortly. Second day, remember, the doctors are asking for pay hikes, for promotions, and for their job groups to be looked at following that collective bargaining agreement of 2013. Let's now bring in Francis Ontomwa from Mombasa. Francis, good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, Ben Kitili.
What do we know from Mombasa? What's happening there? How is the situation as the medical workers strike entered day 2 today?
Well, Ben, it's a matter of hours here at the Coast General Hospital, of course, since this strike began. And already we are starting to record sad state of affairs. Only a matter of hours we are here at the Coast General Hospital, and we've actually had 3 families actually recounting to us on how their kin died moments after the strike, of course, began. And yesterday there were also 2 cases that were reported to have actually people who had died. And it was actually also a matter of hours since the strike began. Just to show you that indeed the strike is starting to bite on, and it's a sad state of affairs. And perhaps if you can project a few hours from now, perhaps things could even be getting worse here. We've had medics, of course, speaking to us on the peripheries, saying that they'll not be coming back to work until, of course, a real deal is given to them. And we've also been speaking to patients here who feel that indeed this should not be the way to handle this particular whole affair. They are saying that perhaps better ways to handle this particular affair should be brought in, because if anything, it's a matter of life and death, Ben.
Francis, so what you're telling us is that everything is at a standstill, the Coast General Hospital. Nobody is working, not nurses, not doctors.
Well, despite the strike, of course, going on, we are still witnessing patients coming here, but no one is attending to them because the wards are empty, and those who've been in the wards actually are now leaving. We've been recording pictures of most of them actually leaving Coast General Hospital. They're headed nowhere. Most of them actually are saying that they'll be going just home because they may not actually afford to be able to transfer, of course, their patients to private hospitals. Therefore, at this juncture, of course, there are so many people still lagging around here. Most of the patients actually sleeping on the corridors here, but then up till now actually there is no hope that they will be attended to.
Have you been able to talk to any of the doctors or management of the hospital maybe to just tell you what the way forward is?
Well, earlier on, actually yesterday, in fact, when we were talking to some officials, they were saying that they will be attending to emergency cases only. But that actually has not been happening because they've actually met people who are actually in emergency conditions and they are being turned out of this particular facility. And therefore, they are saying that they are still clinging on that particular strike that was announced by the union officials. And they are referring to us, to county officials, to actually give us a picture of what is happening. But according to them, they are sticking to that particular strike, and they're saying that they're not going to relent on this one, though, of course, suffering continues here for patients. Ben.
In Mombasa, what is this? What impact is this having on private health facilities? Are you seeing people maybe flocking the private health facilities because they can't get any services from the public hospitals? Is that happening?
Well, Ben, at this juncture, it will be quite automatic that at private facilities there will be more people than it has been witnessed before, because most of actually those who are leaving this place are headed to private hospitals. But that is only a clique of those who can afford private services. But most of those who are leaving the public facilities, they're actually headed home. If I can just paint to you the picture of Coast General Hospital, this is a referral hospital, which is, of course, the largest in the region. And most of the cases from all the 6 counties of the Coast region are referred to this particular facility. And when, of course, the system breaks down here, the Coast General Hospital, you can picture the magnitude of suffering that will, of course, ensue that. And therefore, having had a breakdown of services here at the Coast General Hospital, most people continue to suffer, Ben.
Thank you, Francis. Francis Ntomo, our reporter at the Coast, just giving us what's happening from that region, reporting to us live from the Coast General Hospital. That is the biggest referral hospital from that region, serving up to 6 counties. That is counties, of course, at the Coast. Very heartbreaking news coming from that end. 3 people have lost their lives today because of not being able, because no doctor was able to attend to them. Nurses, nobody is able to attend to them. Dr. Zid says that they will be available for emergency cases. That has not happened. That is what Francis Ntomo is telling us. Yesterday also, more sad news. 2 people also lost their lives in a matter of hours at the Coast General Hospital, as the strike of the medical workers enters day 2. Let's now take you to the county of Kisumu, and KTN News reporter Rashid Ronald is there. Rashid, good afternoon. And what is happening in Kisumu?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ben Kitili. At Kisumu Sub-County Hospital, they used to call it Kisumu District Hospital, but now because of the devolution thing, it's Kisumu Sub-County Hospital. And as we speak right now, there is nothing happening here, no patients around, save for those ones who are admitted. A few of them who are admitted, about 2-3 are still here. The rest actually went home, or they went to other private health facilities. Since morning, no movement like the way it's usually here. The doctors are nowhere to be seen, and the few patients who are inside the wards are being attended to by students, remember, students from KMTC, Ben.
Have you been able to talk to any doctors or nurses there, Rashid?
So far, we haven't spoken to any doctor or nurse. And imagine, Ben, they are nowhere to be seen. Remember, yesterday, they demonstrated along the streets of Kisumu, saying that they will only come back to work once the CBA is signed and implemented. Today, they are nowhere to be seen. That's why I'm saying you go to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Referral Hospital, the story is the same. There are no doctors, there are no nurses. It's just students from the Kenya Medical Training College who are actually treating or attending to patients in various wards. Yesterday, we were here, Ben, and we covered a story of the girl, Baby Hope, 4-year-old, who was abandoned here, who has actually become the face of this nurses strike in Kisumu. Today, when we came back in the morning, she was nowhere to be seen. We are told that she's been taken away by some doctors who decided to take care of her, Ben.
Rashid, are patients still flocking the hospitals there in Kisumu, still hopeful of being attended to? Or are they...
Come again?
Are patients there still trying to flock the hospitals with any hope of being attended to?
I said earlier, Ben, this place is really deserted. The people you are seeing maybe behind me passing, these are people coming to see their patients who are still admitted inside there. Even though they are admitted, they are not receiving any kind of treatment. I entered in one of the ward. It's called where we had guys who had surgery here. People are really in pain, and they even painkillers. There are no painkillers. No one is giving them any kind of drug, Ben. So as we can say right now, no patient is coming. I think they've realized that there's no point of going to hospital, especially public hospital.
All right, many thanks, Rashid Ronald. They are reporting live from the Kisumu Sub-County Hospital. The story is the same as we have witnessed from the Coast General Hospital, from the Nyeri County Referral Hospital, as well as the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. Deserted hospital wards, patients who are still in hospital in some places like Kisumu, nobody to attend to them, no nurses, no doctors, many of them being discharged prematurely, forcing them to go to private health facilities. That is a story that we are witnessing across the Republic as the strike entered day 2 today. On Monday, that is yesterday, a total of 8 deaths were reported from different hospitals. Today, as we have reported to you a few minutes ago, 3 people have lost their lives at the Coast General Hospital following this strike. The talks have not moved an inch from yesterday. The Ministry of Health, led by the Secretary, Cleopa Milo, are said to be meeting the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union this afternoon to try and see if they can come to a deal. Remember, what they are agitating for, the doctors and the medical workers, is the terms from that collective bargaining agreement of 2013. We are keeping an eye on that developing story, the biggest story in this country for you here on KTN News. Let's now switch attention to another developing story from the region. And former Commander Dominic Ongwen has pleaded not guilty to war crimes charges at the opening of his trial at the ICC in The Hague. He has told the International Criminal Court that he doesn't understand the charges brought against him. Ongwen was facing 70 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity, says the charges should have been brought against the leader of the Lord's Resistance Army, Joseph Kony. Judges have ruled that he understands the charges. The judges earlier dismissed an application by the defense, who sought to stop the opening of the trial to have the suspect undergo psychiatric examination.
December 2005. Count 52. Torture as a war crime of P0101 between 1st of July 2002 and July 2004. Of P0214 between September 2002 and 31st December 2005. Of P0226 between 1st of July 2002 and sometime in 2003. Of P0227 between approximately April 2005 and 31st December 2005. Count 53. Rape as a crime against humanity of P0101 between 1st of July 2002 and July 2004. Of P0214 between September 2002 and 31st December 2005. Of P0226 between 1st of July 2002 and sometime in 2003. Of P0227 between approximately April 2005 and 31st December 2005. Count 54. Rape as a war crime of P0101 between 1st of July 2002 and July 2004. Of P0214 between September 2002 and 31st December 2005. Of P0226 between 1st of July 2004 and sometime in 2003. Of P0227 between approximately April 2005 and 31st December 2005.
The trial of Dominic Ongwen earlier at the International Criminal Court, facing 70 charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity, more than any other suspect in the history of the ICC. Let's now bring in our reporter in Kampala, Uganda, who is with us in Nairobi today. That is Solomon Serwanja. Solomon, good afternoon.
A very good
Welcome
afternoon
to Nairobi.
Thank you very much.
You have been on air, but I've not met you, so I have to welcome you. So the Ongwen becomes the first child soldier to be tried at the ICC, and it is a very complex situation because he was, recruited as a child soldier, so his mind was, molded to the shape of his oppressors to become later a warlord. How does Uganda view Dominic Ongwen?
First of all, Ben, I think it's important for us to note that these arguments were put up during the pre-trial session, that is the pre-trial chamber 2, that he couldn't face those charges because he was abducted as a victim. And of course, the judges unanimously decided that he needed to face trial. And today, the 4th chamber of the trial chamber of the International Criminal Court is in session as we speak, as Dominic Ongwen faces over 70 charges. I think what is also important for us to note, Ben, is that again, on the same issue, Dominic Ongwen, while asked earlier on this morning if he understood the charges preferred against him, he did say he did understand them, but they are not supposed to be conferred upon him because those are charges he thought were supposed to be conferred upon the LRA, the Lord's Resistance Army, and more so Joseph Kony. And so from where he stands, he also still says that he's a victim of abduction and therefore he shouldn't face trial. But of course, that's water under the bridge, Ben. Dominic Ongwen is on trial, and some human rights defenders like Human Rights Watch have come out to praise the International Criminal Court, saying that justice is beginning to take its course. But let's go to Uganda, where thousands of people are watching the trial session. Matter of fact, the register of the International Criminal Court is in Uganda, more so in Odek camp, but also where 800 people have been watching, are still actually watching because the session is still ongoing, the trial of Dominic Ongwen. And of course, mixed reactions coming through from different Ugandans, whether indeed his trial at the International Criminal Court will cause justice to the thousands of people who lost their loved ones.
In Gulu, northern Uganda, which was, of course, the epicenter of a lot of these atrocities, do they view Ongwen as a monster? What is your take on this?
Well, like I did say, Ben, it's mixed reactions there. Some people thinking that Dominic Ongwen should have been brought back home and faces the local justice system so that reconciliation and recovery can start for him. He's a son of the soil. Many people saying that he was molded, just like you said, to commit these atrocities and therefore shouldn't be so much blamed. And so there's a section of Ugandans, especially those in northern Uganda, who perhaps would prefer Dominic Ongwen to come back home and be reintegrated back into society, while other section, especially those who are being represented at the International Criminal Court by a set of lawyers who still think that Dominic Ongwen should face trial for the atrocities that he committed as one of the top commanders. So yes, Ben, coming from where you are asking, I think mixed reactions coming through from northern Uganda, especially those that lost their loved ones.
All right, of course, Busha, it is an interesting scenario there. Of course, the Chief Prosecutor Fatu Bensouda saying that they are preferring charges for what he is alleged to have committed as an adult. So that is interesting to see.
And I think, Ben, that's very, very challenging for the International Criminal Court.
Yes.
When do you notice that he committed these charges at the age of 18? How do you ascertain that these charges were committed at the age of 18? I think the prosecutor has a very big challenge for him to produce overwhelming evidence to support her case, rather. But also what I know is that the case will be adjourned until the 16th of January when the prosecution will be given enough time for them to present overwhelming evidence to pin Dominic Ongwen, that before his defense team comes in to defend him.
Speaking of which, give us a picture of how his defense team looks like.
Well, I think it will not vary so much from his defense team that was there during the pre-trial session. And so we'll see some of the senior lawyers from Uganda backing him up who are accredited by the International Criminal Court. More so, we've not yet got details of how his defense team will look like, but yes, he's entitled to a fair trial and therefore will be presented by a lawyer of his choice. Most likely, he will choose the lawyers who have been working with him at the pre-trial session. So most likely it will be the lawyers who represented him earlier.
All right. What is the Ugandan government's take on this trial?
I'll tell you this. I think it comes in at a very, very awkward moment when Uganda's President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has been advocating for African states to pull out of the International Criminal Court. Mostly we've seen countries like Burundi, South Africa starting a journey, and very many questions are beginning to arise when Uganda will eventually pull out of the International Criminal Court. There's already a campaign that has been pushed by the Prime Minister of Uganda, Dr. Ruhakana Rugunda, to Parliament saying that Uganda should expedite the process of pulling out of the International Criminal Court. And so, of course, as the trial begins of Dominic Ongwen, Ben, I can tell you that Uganda, of course, took the issue. Uganda took the issue of the LRA to the International Criminal Court, and therefore they will just watch on as Dominic Ongwen is being prosecuted, not persecuted, beg your pardon, Ben.
Right.
But yes, all eyes are on the International Criminal Court, especially in Uganda, to see if Dominic Ongwen will be found guilty. And if found guilty, Ben, he will spend the rest of his life in prison.
Do you think this trial will be the trigger for Uganda to start the process of trying to pull out of the ICC?
Well, I think Uganda has already started
right.
the process of convincing the August Assembly to pull out of the International Criminal Court. And I think they've been weighing their options, really. Many countries that have pulled out, remember this was a recommendation by the African Union Summit that African states should get out of the Rome Statute. Uganda's President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has over and over again made his statements clear about the International Criminal Court, calling them a bunch of, I don't want to use less people. And of course, he has also been here in Nairobi saying similar statements. But all eyes are on Uganda to pull out of the International Criminal Court. But Ben, I also want to bring to your attention the opposition in Uganda calling for President Yoweri Museveni to be taken to the International Criminal Court, among other top UPDF officers who were involved in the Kasese clashes. The leader of opposition, Winnie Kiza, in Parliament in Uganda, is already starting to work on the paperwork to take President Yoweri Museveni and senior army officers to the International
Interesting
Criminal Court.
times for Uganda concerning the ICC issues. Thank you, Solomon.
Thank you very
Sarwanja joining us here to just talk about the issues in Uganda and, of course, the ICC trial of Dominic Ongwen, former child soldier turned warlord. It is a developing story, of course, the case being adjourned until January. Now, one person has been shot dead as police recovered the remaining 6 guns stolen from Buka police post in Mumias. The guns were found in a sugarcane plantation by 3 suspects who fled the scene. All the 152 bullets that were missing have also been recovered. The first gun was recovered in a sugarcane farm in Mayoni on Saturday, loaded with 20 rounds of ammunition hidden near a river, and 3 suspects arrested. The loss of the 7 guns had led to a ruthless search in the region by General Service Unit, leading to the death of 1 person. In international news, in the United States, former Vice President Al Gore has met President-elect Donald Trump and his daughter Ivanka Trump to discuss climate policy. Al Gore, a climate change activist, described the meeting as a sincere search for areas of common ground. His daughter Ivanka reportedly wants to make the subject one of her signature issues, even though it remains unclear what role she will have in her father's administration. Meanwhile, Trump has nominated retired neurosurgeon Ben Carson to run the Department of Housing and Urban Development. He recently cast doubt on his suitability for a cabinet role, saying he would be a federal bureaucrat.
Thank you. There are 2 different Donald Trumps. There's the one you see on the stage, and there's the one who's very cerebral, sits there and considers things very carefully. You can have a very good conversation with him. And that's the Donald Trump that you're going to start seeing more and more of right now.
Russia and China vetoed a draft resolution of the United Nations Security Council that called for a 7-day ceasefire in Syria's embattled city of Aleppo. Russia said the document infringed the council rule, allowing countries 24 hours to consider the final wording. The U.S. dismissed this as a made-up alibi, saying Russia wanted to preserve recent military gains by Syrian government troops in Aleppo. The army are reported to have seized more parts of rebel-held East Aleppo. Russia and China voted against the draft submitted jointly by Egypt, New Zealand, and Spain.
About conversations with the United States. Russia says that they were on the cusp of reaching a deal with the United States to allow for some resolution of the situation in eastern Aleppo, and that this resolution undermines the negotiation. That is a made-up alibi. The United States, including Secretary Kerry, has continued our bilateral conversations with Russia to try and find some way to relieve the suffering around eastern Aleppo. However, we have not reached a breakthrough because Russia has been more focused on preserving its military gains than helping Aleppo's civilians. Let me tell you what Russia and China have vetoed today in blocking this resolution and allowing the bombardment of eastern Aleppo to continue. They have vetoed the delivery of basic medicine to people who will die without it. They have vetoed the evacuation of sick and dying people who have no chance of surviving in the bombed-out hospitals and clinics of eastern Aleppo. They have vetoed the delivery of food to civilians who could starve to death, and in the case of vulnerable children, suffer lifelong effects from severe malnutrition. They have vetoed the lives of innocent Syrians. This action is a death sentence for innocent men, women, and children.
And in the sports, tonight, the last batch of the group stage of the UEFA Champions League kicks off tonight with two big games in Group A, with Arsenal playing Basel and French champions Paris Saint-Germain playing the Bulgarian champions Ludo Goretz, as two of those teams, PSG and Arsenal, seek to top the group.
Face off against Borussia Mönchengladbach in the UEFA Champions League on Tuesday, with Luis Enrique's men looking to maintain their good form in Group C. Barca have already advanced to the knockout stages of the competition, having already racked up 12 points out of a possible 15, but they are looking to maintain their usual high standards against the German side.
We are focused on winning so we can keep improving, and correct aspects of our play that must be rectified. There's always room for improvement, so it's important when it comes to gaining confidence, especially for La Liga. We have played 3 complicated games which were tied, so we need to get back to winning ways, and this game could help us to gain some momentum.
Luis Enrique has urged his team to go out onto the park and enjoy the match as they look to move on from a disappointing draw in El Clasico against Real Madrid.
We don't have much pressure ahead of the next game because there's nothing at stake. We are already first in our group, and it will end this way no matter what. So for us, it's about enjoying the game at the Nou Camp in front of our supporters. It's a Champions League game against a rival that hasn't anything at stake either, so they'll be aiming to play a good game.
From European football to South American football, and South American soccer's governing body CONMEBOL awarded the 2016 South American Cup Championship to Brazil Chapecoense club on Monday, after most of the team died in a plane crash in Colombia last week. Only 6 people survived the crash en route to the final, which killed 71 passengers and crew, shocked football fans worldwide and plunged Brazil into mourning. Colombia's Club Atlético Nacional, which would have played Chapecoense in the biggest game of Chapecoense's history, asked for the trophy to be awarded to the Brazilian team to honor the victims. As South American champions, Chapecoense will automatically play in the Libertadores, the national. That is, of course, the equivalent of the UEFA Champions League. They also get a direct guaranteed spot in next year's top South America's club championship. Of course, what a beautiful gesture, both in a sporting way and a humanity way. And that is where we leave it on KTN Newsdesk. Many thanks for staying with us. Stay with us for the KTN News Truck coming up next.